Esiet sveicināti, dārgie skatītāji! Nu, beidzot, mēs esam tikuši pie mūsu viena no Eiropas zināmākajiem un labākajiem, nezinu, jaudīgākajiem biohakeriem, Tim Gray no Londonas, no Anglijas, kurš ir īstenībā viens no tādiem arī skaļākajiem kontekstā, arī ar pasaules līmeņa biohakeriem. Un tā kā es viņu pazīstu jau vairākus gadus, tad viņš īstenībā pēdējā laikā nedod pārāk daudz intervijas, bet viņš piekritis ir sarunāties ar mums, ar jums, latviešiem. Tā kā bliezīsim vaļā. Tagad pāriesim uz angļu valodu un mēģināšu arī kaut kādā brīdī uztaisīt arī titrus. Okay, Tim, it's really grateful. I'm really grateful for you to say yes to the interview because, as I understand, you're so busy doing other stuff, organizing health optimization summit and all sort of things. So let me start with a very simple question. What is health optimization?
It does what it says on the tin, as we say in England. It's basically optimizing your health, but it's not just the way that a doctor would do it. It is using anything from the health, the fitness, the medical, the wellness, the nutrition, the biohacking, the paleo, the keto, whatever movement you need, using all of this wisdom to optimize your own health and performance. And a big part of it is tracking so that you can further refine your gains quicker. And an example to close on this point is if you are driving a car and someone asks you how fast it's going and you don't know, how can you go an extra 3 or 4 kilometers an hour faster? You can't. Whereas if you're measuring it, you can say, I'm now at 70, now I'm at 75. And the body is the same, except it's more important to us to measure health factors rather than speed because our health depends on it.
Well, I actually noticed lately that very many people, and especially those that turn to biohacking and, they want to optimize their productivity and all those things. They're always looking for the hacks, for the tricks and things like that. But also, if you are a car, first, before you even understand how fast you are going, you actually need to understand what size your engine is. What is your potential, right? So it's actually first you need to decide where you are and where you want to go. So to determine what is actually achievable. Otherwise, it's like drinking coffee, taking supplements, and you burn out basically like that, right? Would you agree to that? And
100%.
Would you comment on this potential thing?
Yeah. So let's go with this car analogy a little bit further. If you with your car, you service it every year so that it doesn't break down. You fill it up with the best fuel. 1 second. So continuing with the car analogy, you take your car in for a service every year so it doesn't break down. You have the best quality fuel and oils in it. Whereas with our bodies, we tend to only go to a doctor when something goes wrong. We don't service our bodies every year, or we don't have checkups frequently. But I think biohackers or health optimizers generally like to measure markers to see where they're at, to further refine their hormones or any of the markers, their blood glucose or whatever, sleep scores on a daily basis. So they're always optimizing and refining. And based on compound theory, just improving your sleep by 2% can have such a synergistic knock-on effect in so many other areas. So I think that's where biohackers are very different to a lot of other people. But with worldwide pandemics and all these things happening, people are becoming more concerned about their health before things go wrong and starting to put things in place so that they don't get ill. So I think that's the car analogy really does work well. And with the body, people put in poor quality fuel and they expect their car to run properly.
I just today ran a Clubhouse talk on you should treat your body yourself as if you were a luxury brand item. And actually that kind of sounds great for many people that are actually not aware, because they treat their glasses, their car, and everything like that, but totally forget about their health. So what do you think if we could kind of attach also some price tag to our health? Would it help?
Of course. Well, it really depends. I mean, it depends on which way round that you would do it. I mean, I think the bigger problem is, I mean, I spent well over $1 million now, I think, in the last 10 years on my health. While I wouldn't change anything, it's been a fun journey. If I could have spent a tenth of that beforehand to make sure I didn't get ill, then I would have done. But unfortunately, people don't value their health until it's gone. I mean, people, until people get chronic fatigue, for instance, they don't even consider energy as a thing, except for when they're on a hangover. So it's got to go for people to appreciate what they need, and then they start investing in it.
I remember when we first met, that was, I think, in Tallinn, right? I don't think you just started, but you were kind of, for me at least, you were fresh on the scene. And I would like to ask you a few questions about your processes of learning, because very many people, when they first turn to biohacking, one thing is maybe they are already suffering and they have no other choice than just to start doing everything like that. But what is your process? What would be like the suggestions or recommendations how to learn, how to go that path to discover the potential and really kind of increase the energy level, sleep, and everything like that?
It comes to motivation. What is your goal? Because if you don't have a strong purpose or a strong why, then you don't drive towards it. For instance, to put it to the extreme, if someone says, you read this book or I'm going to kill you, you're going to read that book, right? So for me, my health had gone. I mean, I've been a high performer for most of my adult life, running seven-figure companies, multiple seven-figure companies, and always very driven. And I didn't appreciate all the things that I was doing wrong. And for me, when it went wrong, my goal was to get back to where I was. And then when I got back to where I was, I then realized how inefficient or how poorly I was running before I got ill. I was probably running at 70%, whereas now I really understand how high I can perform compared to before. So by having this strong motivation of being super ill and not being able to leave the house, I learned everything I could. And I like to be very strategic, but at the same time reactive enough that I don't become a dinosaur. And for instance, I got a pack of Post-it notes, which I keep everywhere near me. And I wrote down every symptom, every issue that I had, and pasted them all on the wall and put them into a cause and effect chart so that I could figure out and then study each one and then put them into a chart to see which one I could tackle first to have an impact on all the others. So that was number one. And then I went around my study strategically from that. So that's number one. The other thing in terms of learning, once you've picked what you need to work on. So for me, the health issue that was causing me the biggest grief at the time is where I'd put my energy and I would drop everything else. I would only focus on this one thing, because I often hear people say, oh, well, I've got a gut issue and I've got brain fog and I've got this and I've got that and I've got that. And I'm reading all these different things. It's like, one thing at a time, man. Nail it, one thing at a time, and do it properly. So that's really been my approach. And then in terms of learning, my background has always been psychology and digital marketing. I've been doing that for well over 20 years now. And it's really, really important to apply yourself properly, and having the background in psychology obviously helped me to understand people, communication, and learning styles. So one of the best ways to learn for anyone that wants to do this is, one, go through the strategy of figuring out what you want to attack first and fix it. And again, that comes down to motivation. So for instance, if you've got migraines and you've got low energy, which one's most important to you to work on first? Pick that. And then the second thing is when you've picked your topic and you want to then devour a subject. Let's just go with the migraine one, for instance. Now, I listen to audiobooks and podcasts because you get a lot of gold from that, but you learn auditorily. I watch videos, which means I'm learning visually and auditorily. And then I read books as well. Now, I also make notes. Whenever I have a paperback, I write in the front of the book my key learnings, and I underline everything and then put it into the front of the book. Now, you're then learning visually, kinesthetically, and auditorily. So you're learning it from all angles. So when I listen to a book, I hear a certain book. When I watch a book or watch the video on it, I learn different points. And when I write it down, I then install those thoughts. So really, I almost become a sponge for this knowledge, because I'm learning the things that are most important to me and then learning in the way that my brain will absorb them the most. That's really my strategy, or how I work in terms of learning. And then to take it to your point on when we first met, I think it was Tallinn Biohacker Summit. I think I'd been in biohacking for 7 years, 5 of which I didn't even know the term biohacking, 2 of which had been following Dave Asprey's work. And I'd actually been to a Bulletproof conference before I'd been to the Biohacker Summit. So I was fairly new on the scene, but my knowledge was already there for 7 years when we had met, which I think had given me a leg up. And I'd been doing this pretty solidly, reading anywhere between 20 and 54 books in a year, each year, as well as devouring content every day. So again, compound theory or compound knowledge, it really does add up.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned this motivation. Of course, if you are kind of sick and feel weak, and you can feel better, that's one motivation. But what's interesting, and you can maybe comment on that, because it seems like when you start doing this, when you use your motivation to get better, then you kind of gradually develop the next type of motivation, which you may call a meaning or purpose or something larger, which I can see now implemented into your life, but to so many, like thousands of other people, by organizing the summit and posting a lot of content on different social media and talking to other people on podcasts like this one. Can you say, because I think this polar star is really something that people lack for getting into this path, for getting better, performing better, and recovering their potential.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I get asked all the time, where do I start in biohacking or health optimization? It's probably my most asked question, other than how to make bulletproof coffee. And I go and watch Dave Asprey make it on YouTube. That's your best place. The question isn't where should I start or what should I do? It's why do you want to do it?
No, actually, the thing is to kind of emphasize, and maybe it's a little bit like rhetorical question, not completely a question, but about this polar star, about this kind of bigger purpose, because once you have it, actually, it's just the time will tell where will you start, right?
Well, I think it goes deeper, as in why, again, the why would someone want to do it? Because is it because it's cool? Is it because they've got a health issue? Is it because their best friend's doing it? Is it because their partner's doing it? It could be one of many things. And depending on your answer, I mean, it could be because you want to invest in a growth industry. And there's a lot of people out there doing that. So, and each route is very different. For me, it was chronic health issues. For Dave, it was as well. I think for, Teemu and people over at the Biohacker Summit, it's more about optimal performance than fixing health issues, although, they're synergistic together. So yeah, so it's a really difficult question. And it's like, the amount of people that say to me, Tim, which test should I do? Or which tracking device should I get? I was like, well, what do you want to work on? Yeah, but which blood test, Tim? I was like, well, it really just depends on, what you've got going on. Oh, I just want to know stuff. Okay, Well, if you want to know stuff, there's no test you should do. If there's something particular going on or an ailment that you've got going on, then, you know, let's look at the right test for that. So the why really is the whole driving factor, and the people that have got the biggest motivation. Think about a mother trying to save her child by like walking 100 miles across a desert just to get a cup of water, and then gets the cup of water to the child and then dies. Her why, her purpose has kept her going to keep the baby alive. And that is the strongest thing that we can have of all.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I always kind of, it not completely relates to biohacking as such, but in general, when you talk about self-growth and developing yourself, it's actually, this purpose is one of the key factors. And if you don't start with why, then everything is going to be, everything is going to fail after some while, right? So that's why blood test, to which device, which measurement, which this, which that is actually doesn't matter, because if you don't think about your why, that's kind of, yeah, it's not complete. Well, what has been your game changers since you are here in biohacking scene? Like one thing is when you were just reading books, but after some while, when you meet cool people, now some advanced people, you get some, maybe sometimes inside knowledge and things like that. What has been game changer for you personally in terms of optimization and revealing your potential?
It really depends in which area. I think still to date, bulletproof coffee has been my favorite of all. And I know it's ridiculous because it's coffee, but being fat fueled in the day, I mean, bulletproof coffee has a lot more weight than just a coffee in the morning. It's about being fat fueled. It's about having metabolic flexibility, opposed to being carb loaded and having insulin spikes all day long. And that means that balanced hormones and better energy production and better sleep and better healing. So I think, you know, that was a segue into a much bigger piece in the health space for a lot of people as well. So I think that's probably my favorite of all. And if there was one non-negotiable biohack, if I had to drop them all, the one that I would keep would be the blue blocking glasses every night, actually, because, you know, my heart rate is much lower and my heart rate variability is much higher every day as a result of wearing blue blockers 3 hours or more before bed. And it's actually you know, when I have a poor night's sleep, or, you know, I may feel good in the morning, but my stats weren't so good, it's consistent that I haven't used blue blocking glasses enough. So that's, you know, that's one of the biggest game changers. So those two, and, you know, Dave Asprey has been known to make those two things very popular. And they are the top two for a reason, in my opinion. But there's also a lot of different technologies and supplements and cool things that are coming out every day. And, you know, obviously organizing the summit gets me access to trying and testing all of these things all day, every day. But most of them are just another supplement or just another toy or another device or something or other. And the basis of health remains the same regardless. And that comes down to the energy you put in, and that could be from the sun or from your food, to the energy you let out, and that comes through exercise and movement. Understanding that, you know, we need to fuel ourselves properly and incorporate nature properly is the most important thing. You know, we can, I think the saying that I say a lot actually is, biohacking is using technology to mimic a natural environment in an unnatural world. And that's because we need to reverse the technologies that we've created using technology, such as grounding mouse mats, which I've got one here that my wrists are on right now, so I'm earthed out. Instead of being out in the garden, I'm earthed out on the mouse mat. So that's using technology to mimic nature. You know, there's hyperbaric oxygen therapy, for instance, which is mimicking being fully oxygenated, you know, because we're in a less oxygenated than we should be. So we have to use technology to reverse that. you know, the base, more natural one is breath work, but breath work practices are still a biohack because, you know, it's not something that we would necessarily have to do if we're proper oxygenated in the first place. So, you know, all of these things come back to the fundamentals. And I always talk about the fundamentals of health, because biohackers will be doing all these cool things and taking all these cool supplements, but when you ask them when was the last time they got their shoes off and stood in the grass and got the free electrons to reduce their inflammation in their body and help their blood flow, you know, they generally say, I can't remember, maybe when I was on holiday last. So, you know, how can you be spending all this money on supplements and stuff but not have the basics in place?
Not only they don't go walk barefoot, it's actually also that they use very soft soles, and their feet are actually very weak. The nerves underneath the feet don't get activated, so you lose your proprioception and everything like that. So actually there are a lot of problems. And then actually it's hard not to notice how you actually changed also the content and a little bit of style how you post on social media. And I assume it's because once you get access to a lot of technology devices and supplements and everything like that, you can go full circle to return back on the fundamentals. Like what I always hear and see you talk about is sunlight, fresh air, water, and all those basic stuff that some people would even not consider as biohacking because it's just the nature, right? So how would you comment that people so are obsessed with devices in general? So like attach this, attach that, you know, use this and that, and they have full drawers of technology and that are not being put into practice. So maybe about this natural thing that we have, because sometimes I'm blessed that I don't have this hyperbaric oxygen chamber, because actually I'm forced to go outside, you know, to go to the nature, expose myself to sunlight, and do some breath work techniques and everything like that.
Biohacking is a mindset. It's not the thing in between. For instance, someone says, well, you do yoga, that's not a biohack. I said, well, I'm a biohacker and I use yoga to hack my body. So, you know, a yogi isn't necessarily a biohacker, or someone that uses an MRI machine isn't a biohacker. But if you're using an MRI for a diagnostic purpose because you're a biohacker, then it's a biohack. So, you know, as Dave, again, Asprey says, you know, our ancestors were biohackers because they learned how to use fire, which helped unfold the proteins in the food and kill off bacteria and stuff. They were, you know, they weren't biohackers, but we can class them as biohackers in terms of the mindset. So that's really what's important to hold on to. So yeah, I've tried to make the nature side of things more popular and more acceptable to biohackers. And that was just because of the realization that, you know, holy crap, everything we're doing is trying to reverse, you know, modern times to be where our ancestors had. You know, like blue blockers, again, there's a classic example, blocking out the fake blue light. There's nowhere in nature that blue light exists on its own, except for, you know, on a mobile device or a laptop, because we created it. So then we then have to wear blue blocking glasses to block that blue light out. So it's, you know, it was a theme I found everywhere. And I was like, well, I'm going to push this and call it biohacking, I think it was, which was my first talk I did on the subject. And now I talk about the fundamentals of health, you know, what you do before you start biohacking, basically. And it's been well adopted. I think a lot of people are grabbing onto it. Not saying that it's my work, but I'm just curating other people's work.
You know, I recently acquired a dog. Like, I never had in my life a dog. And it was such a surprise to see what my dog is doing in terms of biohacking. I've been talking about these things, also lecturing and doing workshops and everything like that. And then I noticed that my dog does everything I was talking about, but coming from the kind of biohacking scene, right? He shakes himself to emotionally decharge, you know, it walks barefoot all the time. It stretches itself because, you know, it's like this so-called balasana yoga pose. He does it like 20 times a day. And so now I have my mentor, which is my small dog, and I actually use him as an example to show everybody, you get a dog, you walk your 10,000 steps a day because you have to walk your dog, you know, and be in the nature and everything like that. So this is exactly true, that we need to reverse back to natural being biohacker, because we were some time ago biohackers by nature, by definition.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think animals are generally intuitive, and like, for instance, if I shared this out on Instagram a while ago, was if you put margarine, fake margarine or whatnot in the garage, no animals will go near it, won't even mold. Whereas if you put butter in the garage, then it will. And, you know, animals are intuitive enough to know that it's toxic, poison crap. Whereas us humans, we go, oh, well, let's use that, you know. So it's good to look at what animals do, you know, because they're intuitive with it. We're advanced, but we're unadvanced.
Absolutely. Well, can we go a little bit towards the future of biohacking? Because I recently noticed that even in Health Optimization Summit, when I was last time in London, you already could notice these new waves of that anti-aging, you know, and longevity is almost like a separate division from the biohacking, away from the natural stuff. Like Aubrey de Grey talks about that, because that it won't be possible to actually prolong our longevity just by using these breathwork techniques and all the natural movements. So would you agree that this is kind of a separate way, and where do you see this all developing?
It's a very, very good point. Very good question. Our average lifespan has increased significantly. So we're getting something right, but we're being sicker for longer. And
the health span is shorter, the lifespan is longer.
Yeah, so we're now living longer than we've ever lived before. Yeah, but yeah, and lifespan is in terms of quality of living, in terms of health. I mean, we're on more medications than ever before. And I think, you know, the statistics of the under 30s being on more, you know, several medications on average is just insane. So I do think that we're going to find a healthy balance between the things that worked for our ancestors to mean that they lived healthy until they died, and we're going to live healthier longer until we die. And we're in a fractionation period, or should I say a learning phase right now, of combining those two together, of saying the best from nature that helps us live, and then the best from technology that helps us thrive. And I think that's really where things will go at some point. But yeah, I mean, this is what we're learning from right now. But I do think that we've lost touch with the earlier part, which is what our ancestors have. And so that's why they say, oh, you know, why has he got a bad knee? Oh, because he's old. Well, it shouldn't be like that. It should be, why has he got a bad knee? It's because he damaged it, not because he's old. Aging should not be, you just gradually get worse and worse and worse and worse. It should be, you know, just life length.
Well, basically, if you look at all the technology, not only the tracking devices, which sometimes is misconceived as biohacking tools, right? It's just the measurement devices, but also these technology that enhance already natural occurring processes. That basically these are meant to get rid of the obstacles that make us sick, right? Because otherwise, if we just lived in the nature, we wouldn't need something like that.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah. I mean, most of the stuff we do, like, for instance, do we need to go on detox protocols? A lot of people do. Why? Because we've got so many toxins from household chemicals, from city smoke. You know, why do we need an air purifier? I mean, I've got one right here because I live in a city. I mean, I do all these things to reverse that. Whereas if I lived in nature, I wouldn't need an ice bath. Or I wouldn't, you know, I would have a lake.
Yeah. So, well, basically, it's like to balance out the damage that is the cost that we pay for getting this kind of civilization stuff, and then we kind of reverse the same thing just to be able to consume, like, I mean, in a good way, consume everything that we consume, right? Because otherwise we could not talk on Zoom now, being like 2,000 kilometers away from each other. So basically there are some benefits to the civilization stuff, but at the same time we need to remember about the human contacts, the communication, the social aspects and everything like that, and also use the technology to kind of reverse everything.
Well, it's a very good point again. I had a call with someone earlier on and they said, oh, I hear AirPods are super bad for your health. I was like, yes, they are. He said, do you use them? And I was like, well, I like them a lot, actually. I love them. I think they're an amazing invention, but they're bad for your health. And they said, do you ever use them? And I was like, if I'm on my trampoline or rebounder and I'm having a call, then I use them for 3 to 5 minutes because they're so convenient. But I won't use them for extended periods of time because it's just crazy to have that sort of EMF running through your brain. And understanding that, you know, these conveniences come at a cost is where we can take control of this. So, you know, as you say, like standing in front of a blue screen, both of us, you know, that comes at a cost to health, but it comes at a benefit from being able to use Zoom. It's the same with the AirPods. They come at a cost of health, but they come at a cost of health and a convenience. And, you know, being able to rebound while on a call, which means I can continue to keep myself moving throughout the day and not be static. And, you know, obviously living a sedentary lifestyle is one of the biggest killers of all. You know, balancing these things off is awesome, and understanding that, but still knowing what the potential dangers are with a potential gain. So, you know, to your point, you're exactly right.
Well, you brought in the term, the compound effect, which comes like from the financial world, right? I would like to introduce the one more, which I think, in my opinion, is a very important one and kind of misunderstood or maybe not completely used, would be the opportunity cost. And in terms of health, like you said, the Bluetooth, you know, these iPhone earpods are really cool invention. I actually really love them. I would love to wear them all the time, but because I'm aware of the damage that they can create for you, it's really important to understand what it costs to you, to your health. And basically people behave themselves as if they had infinite budget in their wallets, in the food store where there are no price tags. You know, and then they go to a cashier, they don't know how much money they have, they don't know how much they have in their baskets, and then the cashier says, you know, 70 euros, and you're like, what? I don't know, you know. And at one point I actually defined myself as being the guy, you know, with this price tag pistol. My task is not to help people, but just to say how much everything costs, so that you get aware of the real benefits and costs. So basically everything you do as a biohacker is to determine the price tags and how much budget you have. And basically what you can also do is to increase your budget by earning more in terms of getting more sleep, getting more energy levels and everything like that. How do you like this analogy? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very good. It's very, very good. I like it. And I mean, I think I also do the exact same strategy with the biohacks that I'm doing. So for instance, if I'm doing a magnesium IV, for instance, what's the potential risk? Okay, I could damage my vein. I mean, obviously I was taught professionally to do it, but you know, is there a potential risk from having magnesium IV? Yes. What's the potential gain? Okay, for instance, I might have a migraine in that moment. Would magnesium IV help the migraine? Most probably. What's the risk to reward? Or hyperbaric oxygen, the first time I had it, I remember thinking, I'm getting into this crazy chamber right now. Is this dangerous for my health, or is it going to be good for my health? You know, is it going to give me a 5% gain and a 1% cost? So I do the same risk analysis on every biohack that I do. Like pretty much with every single one I do. Like I just got the new BioStrap or a BioStrap now, and I've also got 2 Oura rings on, and I'm measuring these 2 to each other and also comparing the data to this, so I can see, you know, which one's most accurate and gives me the most consistent results. And I'm like, well, do I want another electrical device on me? Well, actually, I might be able to refine my sleep so much better that I'm going to get, you know, 10% more efficiency. And for the space of 2 weeks of wearing another device, it might cause me a little inconvenience long-term to my health. So I'll go for it, you know, whereas if it's a Bluetooth device that has to stick to my forehead every night, I probably wouldn't use it one night because that's just such a big risk for me. So, you know, everything's risk to reward, and it can be flipped the other way around. You know, what do I want to eat? That dirty bacon that's not come from a good pig, you know, that's probably riddled with toxins and antibiotics and hormones and stuff, you know, and is the bacon going to give me better health? You know, it's pretty obvious the answer in that case. Is this implant on my arm, you know, going to give me lots of good health data so I can optimize my health significantly more, or is it going to be, you know, some EMFs that I don't want? Again, it's the same. So your analogy fits very, very well. I love it.
It's like you can create the compound effect also on the other direction. So, and you actually don't even notice how you wind up at some bad place. And basically what happens to people that are sick, that's because of the compound effect going the other way around. So,
yes.
So, yeah. So, and what do you think, and probably it's one of the very also often asked questions, is about the misconceptions, like common mistakes or some misunderstandings about all that stuff, about the biohacking. Where do people go wrong thinking they are doing correct things?
They don't get the basic building blocks in place first. They go after all the shiny toys, the newest supplement that's going to save their life, the newest technology, you know, the best red light, all of these things, and yet they don't hydrate properly. They haven't optimized their sleep properly. They don't get grounding. They don't do any breath work. They don't get out into nature. They're playing on their device before bed. They've got toxic relationships or people that aren't good for them in their life that they should be ejecting, and they're not putting quality food into them either. You know, they're all basic, and yet most people don't get any of those right, let alone all of them. And yet they jump in, they go, yeah, biohacking's for cool kids, let's do it. Get those right first. That is the biggest error for most people, including myself once upon a time, not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, sometimes these shiny objects, they're purposefully created as shiny objects, right? So that they kind of attract the attention, and sometimes it can work. That sometimes it gives you some insights that can bring on you to on a kind of favorable path to your health. But in general, I've seen so many people buying this toy and that toy, and you know, this is like really just an illusion. You mentioned you have already few devices on yourself, and what is the wrist device that you have here?
So this is the BioStrap.
Okay, so it's like the nervous system and your strain levels.
Yeah, heart rate variability, sleep, exercise, but it's very similar to the Oura, except for there's a few features on it that are slightly more advanced, like heart rate variability and respiratory rate all day long, whereas the Oura ring only does that when you sleep. So I'm just looking at data points and seeing, you know, which I prefer long term.
And that was CGM.
Yes, constant glucose monitor.
Okay, so what insights has it given to you? Because I know because my thing is I understand, in my understanding, if you would work with some clients one-on-one, like coaching, so one thing is you measure sleep, because what happens during the night is very important to understand where you are at, how good you are recovered and everything like that. And the other one is what's going on throughout the day. And basically your glucose levels fluctuating up and down is the other one. If you were left only with these two measuring devices, would you think that would give you the more or less complete picture?
Not complete picture, but it'll give you a good portion of it. I mean, I'll give you an example of some of the things I've learned. If I eat after sunset, and this is pretty close, then my blood glucose doesn't come down to its lowest point. But when it does, and I track it on this, obviously, my deep sleep is at its best. So if I eat later in the evening after sunset, my blood glucose doesn't come down low enough, early enough, so it comes down late. That means my deep sleep doesn't start until much later. Whereas if I eat at 5 p.m. and don't have anything else other than water before bed, my blood glucose is super low during the night, and then my deep sleep and REM sleep are super high earlier on. So it shows how my body is no longer using my digestive system to get the energy from the food, is actually using the energy to repair my body and restore properly. Now, most people eat well after sunset, not until they get home after work. That's just one insight that I've learned from tracking my sleep and my glucose at the same time. And that's very consistent. I also know that if I wear blue blocking glasses after sunset, at least 3 to 4 hours before bed, and I stop eating before sunset, then my deep sleep is much higher. My heart rate comes down probably 10 beats a minute, and my heart rate variability doubles. And that's based on eating earlier and wearing blue blockers earlier. So it really does show how, the circadian rhythm determines so much about our health and our day. So, and also, the final piece is if you've exercised before bed, other than bedroom acrobatics, of course, then you find that, you don't sleep so rested if you've exercised so late in the day, because, it's almost like you're running from an animal late at night, raising your heart rate, stressing yourself out, increasing your cortisol, and stressing the adrenals late in the day. So I find that exercising before sunset is super important as well.
Yeah, definitely. Ring without even the CGM has actually already changed my lifestyle patterns. But I know we are running short on time. Maybe few last sentences on Health Optimization Summit, because soon it's coming. I mean, just few months ahead, and it's here. So maybe you can just make a little bit of promotion, because people would love it.
Yeah, I mean, we have 1,500 biohackers or health optimizers from around the world come to London once a year. We have obviously Dave Asprey, Dr. McCullough, Jim Quick, Vishen from Mind Valley, basically all of the headliners in one place in London each year, with around 100 exhibitors this year, and yeah, over two awesome days that will incorporate all of the areas of health, really. And because we bring the best of the health and fitness, medical wellness, nutrition, biohacking, paleo, keto, all of these spaces together in one place, it's a pretty awesome crowd, really good tribe, and get to meet a lot of awesome, cool people. And so it's a really fun thing. The other thing is that actually I've had so many people asking me where to start in their health optimization journey. I brought out a digital course recently, which is the Fundamentals of Health. So it's a 10-day course, just a step-by-step guide to, to show people what they can do on a daily basis, tweak their days to implement these fundamentals before they start doing all the crazy cool biohacks. So that course has been super popular. Actually, we launched it about a month ago now, and it's been much more successful than I ever anticipated. So it shows that, it was needed.
Yeah, well, thanks for the work that you do and for online course for the Health Optimization Summit. I was there 2 years ago. It was so cool. And not only because of content, but because you actually meet all the speakers, all the people, and I have to say, almost like 50% of the attendants could walk on the stage and be speaker, you know, so advanced crowd. So it's really awesome.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
absolutely.
thanks. Well, if people want to keep up to date with where I am, it's I'm Tim Biohacker on Instagram, or the website is summit.healthoptimization.com.
I will put the links in the notes so everyone could access that. So Tim, thank you, my man. It was a real pleasure. And although many of the things is more or less kind of familiar to me, but I'm pretty sure that to so many Latvians, it's actually a new stuff. So I appreciate your talk, your conversation, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Casper. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.